with the Pioneer 10 spacecraft is no longer possible. Following the launch of Pioneer 10, the topic of Planet X would have languished again had it not been for Zecharia Sitchin, the author of The 12th Planet, which was first published in 1976. According to his translations of ancient Sumerian texts, a race of beings living on a planet called Nibiru bioengineered early hominids on Earth to turn them into slaves for the purpose of mining gold. Called the Anunnaki, these beings lived on a planet the Sumerians called Nibiru, what we call Planet X today, and the Sumerian accounts tell us that it orbits our Sun every 3,600 years, and flies through the core of our system, often causing great cataclysms on Earth. Sitchin's translations and theories are corroborated by an ancient wisdom text called the Kolbrin Bible. And according to Planet X historian Greg Jenner in his book Planet X and the Kolbrin Bible Connection, previous flybys of this mysterious object caused the sinking of Atlantis, the deluge, and the 10 plagues of Exodus. Although Sitchin was continuously mocked and attacked by fundamentalists, our government took his work seriously, and on January 25, 1983, NASA launched the Infrared Astronomical Satellite, IRAS. Its mission was to map the sky using infrared. According to NASA, IRAS was unable to complete its mission due to a failure in its supercooling system, and much of the data collected from the probe was classified and has never been disclosed. Several government whistleblowers say that this was a cover-up because NASA shut down IRAS after it imaged Planet X. Their accounts parallel an article published by the New York Times on January 30, 1983, shortly after the IRAS launch. Evidence assembled in recent years has led several groups of astronomers to renew the search for the 10th planet. Their accounts parallel an article published by the New York Times on January 30, 1983, shortly after the IRAS launch. Evidence assembled in recent years has led several groups of astronomers to renew the search for the 10th planet. They are devoting more time to visual observations with the 200-inch telescope at Mount Palomar in California. They are tracking 2 Pioneer spacecraft, now approaching the orbit of distant Pluto, to see if variations in their trajectories provide clues to the source of the mysterious force. And they are hoping that a satellite-borne telescope launched last week will detect heat signatures from the planet, or whatever it is out there. It is important to note that the term Planet X was also used to refer to a 10th planet. However, after Pluto was demoted to a dwarf planet in 2006, that definition became irrelevant. But what is relevant is what IRAS imaged and the consequences of those observations. In a Victoria Advocate article published on June 14, 1988, NASA astronomer Dr. John D. Anderson was quoted as saying that telemetry from the Pioneer 10 spacecraft indicated the existence of Planet X. Also note that this article was sourced from Google News and was featured in Yowza.com's March 2012 article titled "The Planet X Cover-Up in the Mainstream Media." Following publication of our article, the entire June 14, 1988 edition was deleted from the Google News site. However, a complete copy is available for Yowza.com subscribers. But what is relevant here is that Anderson is a NASA astronomer with one heck of a resume, and what he said in that 1988 news article was powerful. In that article, he said, "We have a 90 to 99% confidence that Uranus and Neptune are being disturbed, and by one candidate for that is a single Planet X. At that point, our government became more interested in keeping public attention focused much closer to home. After all, if you can't see it, it's not there. So go back to sleep, America. Nothing to see here. However, a few curious minds had other notions. On October 1988, Dr. Robert S. Harrington, the chief astronomer for the U.S. Naval Observatory, published his paper, The Location of Planet X, in the Astronomical Journal. In an August 30, 1990 television interview with Zecharia Sitchin, Harrington also said that Pluto had been a satellite of Neptune, but it was dislodged by Planet X, which he believed could possibly sustain some form of life. He also showed Sitchin a diagram he had created approximating the location of Planet X. Following that interview, Harrington commissioned the construction of a special telescope for a Planet X photographic sky survey in 1991, which was completed at the Black Birch Observatory in New Zealand. The New Zealand observations were performed using Harrington's calculations, and the results were sent to NASA. However, those films vanished and have never been seen again, which leaves us with a big question. Did Harrington actually find Planet X, Neptune's perturber? In 1992, Sitchin produced a documentary titled, Are We Alone in the Universe? At the end of that film, Sitchin quotes a NASA press release from that same year. Unexplained deviations in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune point to a large outer body system of 4 to 8 Earth masses on a highly tilted orbit 7 billion miles from the Sun. This NASA press release suggests that Harrington did find Planet X in 1991, but the truth will never be known, because before he could publish his findings, Harrington died from a rapid onset of esophageal cancer on January 23, 1993. With his New Zealand findings suppressed and having died before he could publish his findings, many believe he was assassinated. One of the reasons given by those who subscribe to the theory of an assassination was an obituary by Charles E. Worley of the U.S. Naval Observatory. Worley wrote an obituary about Harrington that states, "Late in his career, Bob seemed quite skeptical of such an object, however." It is important to note that no other sources have come forward to corroborate Worley's claim. Consequently, Harrington's mysterious death was a shot out of the dark that quickly silenced the Planet X topic, both with the mainstream media and science community alike. In a very real sense, it was a veiled threat. Tamper with this at the risk of your own career, or perhaps even your life. In this regard, Worley's obituary was highly effective. This is for sure. Nonetheless, there is a curious question. Harrington built a custom telescope for a U.S. Naval Observatory station in New Zealand. The mission was simple: to find Planet X. So then, did they? Who knows? Because until NASA decides to declassify Harrington's observations, all we can say is that where there is smoke, there is fire. Meanwhile, we're not helpless either, and you'll see why later on in this program. But for now, if you are beginning to feel that the time has come to begin your own planning and preparation for whatever may come, then know this. When the worst of it hits, it will not be brief. This will not be weeks or months. Rather, we're looking at several years, perhaps longer than a decade. What this means is that your supplies, no matter how much you have on hand, is nothing more than a buffer. It buys you some time to work something else out. To optimize that opportunity of time, gather knowledge now, because after things run out, knowledge will help you to endure. And now, I'd like to share some of this very knowledge with you. It's something I've put a lot of work and love into because I know it will help people to make it to the backside. And that is what I'm all about. For those in preparation and planning, healthcare is always a problematic area because it is focused on the pills, potions, and supplements preppers set aside to help get themselves through a cataclysm. And it is problematic because all things physical play out. So a practical solution is what we call transition planning. So is this a December 21, 2012 solution? No. In our last video, Planet X System Observations and Orbital Path Analysis, we addressed December 21, 2012 as an awareness event. It was media-driven and it was successful in creating awareness, so on that regard, mission accomplished. Now, transition is the mission. Simply put, surviving the worst of times begins with surviving the best of times. So in this program, we want to introduce the core concept of transition planning. It is a 4-stage survival resource rating system. Stage 1 is cataclysm awareness. This is when the mainstream media begins to seriously report the news to the public at large, and panic buying ensues. If you're not prepared by this time, be ready for long lines and short supplies at the store. Stage 2 is cataclysm events. Simply put, the first to fall will most likely be the last to know. Planning and luck will also play equal roles. While planning and preparation is not a guarantee that you and your loved ones will survive these events, it will, however, dramatically increase your odds of survival. And with repeated events, expect all or part of your survival stores or caches to be exhausted, lost, or stolen. Stage 3 is post-event. Those who survive the cataclysm event will search for survivors and pull together into small, self-organized groups. While most preppers set aside enough for themselves and their loved ones, as a member of a larger survival group, you'll also share with them as well. This is when the bulk of your physical supplies will be used up. Stage 4 is the backside. This will be the time years into the future when those who survive all the worst that man and nature can throw at them live to see blue skies once again. By this time, all medical supplies will have long been exhausted, and what you'll have is knowledge. Of paramount importance will be the kind of knowledge that helps you with survival wellness and developing sustainable ways of growing food and medicinal herbs. This brings us to the simple metric of our transition planning system. It's a rating system. You rate your resources, physical and knowledge, in terms of how far they'll get you through the process. Here are a few examples. The internet is a fabulous stage 1 resource, but it likely will not go much further than that. A fire extinguisher is a handy stage 2 resource. Have one on hand. And off-road bicycles will be an ideal stage 3 resource for getting around when there's not much left in the way of roads. And long after the internet, fire extinguishers and off-road bicycles have rusted away, knowledge will continue to endure, especially survival knowledge like Danjon breathing. Danjon breathing was created by Korean ruling elites back in the early days of acupuncture. These people were not worried about dying from hunger or thirst. Rather, they lived in fear of catching a cold, hence the old expression, "Don't catch your death of cold." And to explain how it works is Danjon Breathing for Wellness co-developer, Master Roar Shepherd.
You want to have a tool that's been used for thousands of years to deal with these kind of situations. Danjon breathing is easy to learn, quickly oxidizes the body, lets go of carbon dioxide waste, and lowers the calorie demand of the body. More oxidation in the body, less influence on communicable diseases. Now that's important.
The complete Danjan breathing for wellness system from feelbetteronyourown.com includes a full-color symptoms handbook and 6 exercise and reference DVDs. This course was developed by preppers, for preppers, and the symptoms handbook is the core of the system. It offers quick access to poses for a wide range of symptoms and complaints, and it's designed to help volunteer trainers pass along these simple techniques to others. Each pose is cross-referenced by skill level, symptom, and personal goals. Organized into 3 levels, low impact, universal, and high impact, the 57 core poses offered in the Feel Better on Your Own system represent those used by Korean elites for centuries. They are simple, practical, and highly effective. To learn more, visit feelbetteronyourown.com today and view our free instruction videos. Imagine that you knew about the stock market crash of 1929 well in advance of the common man. Obviously, you could use such advanced knowledge to reap windfall profits from the misery. That is, assuming you were to keep the knowledge a secret. So, to what lengths would you go to keep future victims in the dark so that you could achieve the full measure of your own self-interested goals? Likewise, would you expect elites to rise above their own compulsions for power and wealth for moral or ethical purposes to inform the public at large, even if you are not so inclined? The point here is that for the elites, the topic of Planet X has always been about the leverage of deception, because of something I call Titanic rules. First class gets the boats, and steerage goes down with the ship. We're steerage, and the best we can do is to muster an occasional glimpse through a foggy porthole before the elites close it. Yes, it's unfair, but it has always been that way, and each day you spend agonizing over this is one less day you're focused on what really matters: your survival and that of those for whom you love and care. Keep this in mind as we present excerpts from observation reports. On April 24, 2006, Yowza.com broke the story on the South Pole Telescope, SPT, in Antarctica. The stated mission for the SPT really doesn't make a lot of sense because the same science could be done somewhere else at a fraction of the cost. So why build an expensive and sophisticated infrared telescope in such an inhospitable and inaccessible location as the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station in Antarctica? The answer is simple. This infrared 10-meter dish is the perfect instrument for observing an object rising up through the southern skies in infrared. And once they turned it on in January 2007, that's exactly what happened. A year after the SPT went online, the first of 3 highly credible disclosure videos were published on YouTube. The first, posted by Nibiru Shock 2012, was titled Nibiru Planet X Photos Taken January 2008. It was the first time the public had an opportunity to see an image of Planet X in deep space. And here you see a capture from the video, and the same capture again, but enhanced. In it, we see not just one object, but several. This is when we first learned that Planet X is actually a mini constellation of planets and moons, orbiting a small brown dwarf star, that is the binary twin to our own sun. Those of you who were in high school and college during the 1970s may remember this second sun as Nemesis, the designation used by professional astronomers of the day to discuss the possibility that we live in a binary star system. Also, just as Sitchin and Harrington predicted, it would be rising up from the southern skies. But we wondered, could lightning strike twice with another disclosure video? On March 3, 2008, Nibiru-Shock posted his second video titled Nibiru Planet X Update February 1, 2008. Well, what do you know, lightning did strike twice. And in that video we're told that Nibiru is now inside the Kuiper Belt, well beyond the orbit of Pluto. In this video, he tells us it is entering our system at an extremely shallow angle. This is consistent with our most current findings. In this second video, Nibiru-Shock 2012 gave us a brilliant series of images that clearly show Planet X is a rather substantial mini-constellation of planets and moons, a brown dwarf star that is in turn orbiting our own sun. Consequently, it does not look or move like anything humans have seen in over 3,600 years. He also told us that governments are afraid of a panic. Perhaps. But then again, remember Titanic rules. First class gets the boats, and steerage goes down with the ship. We're steerage. Why do we say this? Because after these two videos were posted, the Nibiru-Shock 2012 channel was hijacked by disinformationalists, and the first two videos were labeled a hoax, and the channel was also corrupted. Having investigated the first two Nibiru-Shock 2012 videos at length, we published our findings on April 6, 2008 in an article titled First Two Planet X SPT Leaked Image Videos by Nibiru-Shock 2012, now seen as highly credible. The reason we drew this conclusion was that these were very impressive disclosures, but the manner in which the channel was attacked showed clear evidence of a well-organized and well-funded use of disinformation tradecraft. Following publication of our report, Yowza.com came under heavy attack. Our site was hacked, and a slander campaign was leveled against us with brutal vitriol. In the process of defending ourselves, we filed DMCA complaints with YouTube, and to their credit, Google removed over 13 different attack videos and terminated 4 disinformation channel accounts. Then on May 29, 2008, we published an update article titled Planet X Nibiru SPT Disclosures May 2008 Report. In it, we presented our analysis of a third SPT disclosure video by a different YouTuber going by the name of DNIR4808N. This YouTuber described how a personal friend working at the SPT had sent him an image of the Planet X system captured by the SPT on May 14, 2008. In the video, DNIR4808N named his friend, and the government had the YouTube channel removed along with this video within a few hours after it was posted. Thanks to an anonymous tip, we were able to download the video before the channel disappeared. The video was authentic, but the manner in which the channel was taken down was clear proof of further government suppression. And when you compare the images in the DNIR4808N video with the Nibiru-Shock 2012 videos, it's obvious that both are of the same object or series of objects, which also happen to be in the southern skies. At that point, the question for
under desks while sending texts from their phones, roads buckling under passing cars, grocery store products tumbling from shelves, hospital workers scrambling for cover, and panicked attorneys under tables as the courtroom rocked from side to side. The US Geological Survey has reported 1,700 aftershocks and more than 230 small earthquakes after Friday. Michael West, The Alaska State seismologist told CNN the 7.0 quake was felt up to 400 miles outside of Anchorage. West called it the most significant earthquake in Anchorage since 1964, also known as the Great Alaskan Earthquake and Good Friday Earthquake. The significant quake happened across south-central Alaska, collapsing structures and resulting tsunami caused 139 deaths. The White House said via Twitter that President Donald Trump, who is in Argentina, had been briefed on the disaster. Trump tweeted, "To the great people of Alaska, you have been hit hard by a big one. Please follow the directions of your highly trained professionals who are there to help you. Your federal government will spare no expense. God bless you all." The President approved a federal disaster declaration for Alaska. That authorizes the Department of Homeland Security and Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to coordinate all disaster relief efforts. Evacuations have taken place throughout the city as stores, buildings and homes have been impacted. Employees were also evacuated in the air traffic tower at the Anchorage airport as the tower is inspected for damage. People who were unable to get home used the Dena'ina Civic and Convention Center in downtown Anchorage as a shelter. Two of the city's leading hospitals, Alaska Regional and Providence Alaska Medical Center, sustained damage, but emergency rooms were open according to hospital officials. The supply chain of food and other goods delivered to the port of Anchorage from the lower 48 has not been disrupted by the powerful earthquake that caused widespread damage to roads in Anchorage area. There were no reports of deaths, serious injuries or structural damage to buildings. Roads, however, took the brunt of the damage, especially the scenic Glen Highway, the closest thing Alaska has to an interstate and links the state's largest city to suburban communities to the north. Traffic has been snarled since the quake. Delays have come as drivers were diverted around damaged roads on temporary detours, or the highway was reduced to one lane while crews tried to reconstruct the roadway after the tremor caused sinkholes and buckled pavements. For cleanup crews and families and individuals impacted by the damage, South Central Alaska is welcoming a break from common bitter December cold. Gusty winds and a period of snow, however, can create new obstacles for the crews handling repairs and cleaning up the destruction left behind by the earthquake this weekend. Officials on Saturday encouraged Alaskans not to make a run to grocery stores, saying there was no reason to hoard food. However, at least one grocery store Sunday had no milk and little to no bread, bottled water or bananas. Schools will be closed for the week, so damage assessments can be conducted on about 4,000 classrooms in 86 schools and 4 other facilities, comprising 8 million square feet to make sure that they are safe for staff and students, Superintendent Dr. Dina Bishop said Sunday. NASA's InSight probe has only been on Mars for a week or so, but it's already providing some dazzling images of Elysium Planitina, a flat plain near the Martian equator. Never one to be shown up by the new kid on the block, a fascinating new image has been produced by Curiosity, NASA's veteran Mars rover that has been on the red planet since 2012. In the model taken on November 26th, we see an unusually shiny object laying on the typically red and dusty Martian ground. To figure out the true nature of this strange rock, researchers on the project say that Curiosity will attempt to analyze a sample of the object, called Little Colonsay, for further analysis. Curiosity has documented a small number of suspected meteorites on the Martian surface. Earlier this year, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took a truly stunning image of a massive meteorite impact on Mars. Of course, the red planet is no stranger to meteorites. Mars's atmospheric pressure, on average, is about 1% of Earth's. It's therefore more comfortable for meteorites to reach the ground intact. The nature of these meteorites seemed to be a little different from the ones back home too. Only 4.4% of meteorites found on Earth is iron, while most meteorites are rocky. On Mars, however, iron meteorites dominate. It's not exactly clear why, but it could be to do with iron meteorites being more resistant to the harsh erosion process on Mars. NASA has been accused of cutting their ISS live feed many times over the last few years, as alleged UFOs have flown into the view of the camera. Like clockwork, each time the feed goes down. Here's the first time it happened, and here's the second. Now, there are often claims that what we see floating around in space is nothing more than space junk. While there is space junk floating around in space junk doesn't tend to slow down, make sharp turns, and speed up as an intelligently controlled craft would. Precisely the reason why the videos above and the one we are going to explore below are not space junk. It's also commonly brought up that NASA would have no reason to hide anything. This usually comes up as a result of people not quite understanding the depth of the UFO and ET cover-up that has been going on for many decades. While this can be a complicated subject, many people have gone into very credible detail, describing precisely how this works. A new film called Unacknowledged goes into this in extraordinary detail. I highly suggest checking it out, as it's important to be informed on the issue versus simply blindly dismissing it. Millions of files have been disclosed to the public via declassification and FOIA that have brought forth more evidence than anyone could need to approach this subject seriously. This is why I encourage people to watch the film Unacknowledged, because it details the bevy of hard testimony from verified declassified documents and credible whistleblowers. Our governments, military and high-profile personnel take this matter very seriously, but on a public level, we are being manipulated into seeing it as a mockery. However, that's changing, and disclosure is becoming one of the most sought-after subjects in the world. Along with the blind denial, there is a mockery made of the subject. People have been trained to think about this as a joke by the media to keep the matter covered up and quiet. And there are many reasons for that. Experts often say it in the field that the UFO cover-up is one of the most significant criminal cover-ups of all time. As the world changes, so must all living things with time. We shall come to know and understand our place in the universe, where life began and where growth will lead us in the never-ending journey towards truth and knowledge. By opening our eyes, we shall come to see the creation of all things, both old and new, as we look to the sky, for the sign that guides us in our time of need. I've been Ross, and thank you for watching X Science.